Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of AI Rapid Fire series, proudly hosted by Pronix Inc. I am Kishore Donepudi, CEO of Pronix Inc., where we help organizations drive growth and transformation through conversation AI, Gen AI, cloud solutions, and digital innovation. Today's topic is, are we thinking broad enough about AI? So from philosophy to practically, from the purpose to what I call AIX.O, we will explore how AI can move beyond automation to become a catalyst for reimagining, everything we do. So I'm thrilled to have our special guest joining us, John Blum. He's a co-founder and chief illuminator at Infinite Green. So John is a visionary in blending operational excellence with AI-powered transformation and someone who truly challenges organizations to think beyond obvious. John, thank you so much for being here today. So before we deep dive our rapid questions, would you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself and share a little bit about the work you are doing at Infinite Green?
Sure. Thanks, Kishore. Thank you for having me. I'm always willing to work with you and your organization. We've had a great experience working with you on active projects, and I think it's a good teamwork. So I'm glad to help and glad to offer a few of my insights or pearls of wisdom, hopefully, if it comes to that. Yeah. So we've been in business about 16, and through the course of kind of listening and thinking about how customers really react to technology and process and some of the things that, again, have been in our control over the last several years. When this whole notion of AI came around, it was probably about 8 years for us. We started with a very large project. So we didn't get the luxury of having a small project to kind of cut our teeth with. We had a huge project with United Health Group and Optum and AARP around their Medicare sales process. And so we got to build a nice conversational bot in Microsoft Lewis and kind of, again, scratch the surface of AI. And it wasn't until, a couple of years later that you kind of heard the marketing splash. But since then, we've done a couple of dozen of projects. We get really clear about experience and what the whys. But anyway, I can share a little bit more about that throughout the questions here. But we've got a team of great individuals that just think experience and how we can blend that technology and AI with the human side and creates this kind of power duo of human and technology interaction and intervention. So I think that's the fun topic that we'll talk about today. And are we thinking broad enough about it is a great way of starting that up.
Excellent background to kickstart, and great to know about all the great things that we have done. So let's get dive into the topics that we're going to talk about, AI automations.
Yeah,
So John, to kick things off, are we limiting AI to just automation and efficiency?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think currently, yeah, for the most part, I think we are. I think the reason for that, it's generally due to, the known bottom line benefits that companies are looking after, right? They're tangible. Cost to serve, things that make it much easier for large organizations, small organizations to put their thumbprint on and go, hey, if it's faster, cheaper, or more consistent, that's a good thing. So that's an easy place to start. But I think on the efficiency side, I think on the horizon, I think we're going to end up leveraging AI for invention, for imagining and partnering, not just to optimize. So I think, for the sake of automation and efficiency, yes, currently, but where it's heading and where it's heading fast with the right capability and the right partnerships, I think it's going to go more to that invention, imagine, and partnering, not just optimization.
Excellent. So love that perspective, John. So doing a better with intentional, sets such as powerful tone for the conversation.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part, Kishore.
No, I'm saying, doing that intentionally.
Yes.
Start with automation is a powerful tone.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
Intentional, yes.
Okay, so the next one, are businesses thinking about AI in the context of a purpose or just a productivity?
Yeah, I think mainly productivity right now. I think it's kind of that initial foray or jumping into the pool and figuring out where you can create some kind of a established foundation, right? But where companies are starting to proactively use AI around kind of deeper or broader purposes or in places like healthcare, for example, right? Early disease detection via population health, big data. How do I look at different regions, geographic regions, areas of the world? For education, for example, personalized learning formats.
Okay.
based on things like, hey, am I a visual learner or am I a written learner? Sometimes it could be both. And so going through some of the education testing and some of the testing results should lead us to a little more of this. How do I tailor an education or a content curriculum for that visual or written learner? Financial institutions use big data all the time. They use AI for marketing expansion, planning to serve underserved communities that are changing, all those things. And I think that's a good way of thinking about kind of contextual purpose versus just how do we create more productivity in the model.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's very true, John. So purpose beyond profit is where the magic and the long-term impact really happens. So moving on, for everyone listening, what does AIX.O really mean in your view?
Yeah, to me, I think of AIX.O as kind of the vernacular that we've learned through things like Web 2.0, Web 3.0. I think it's the way I like to think about it is it's the next big inflection point around where tech is being leveraged for deeper problem solving, creating or other kind of larger advances because of AI. And if I put my prognosticator hat on, I think AI 2.0 might be as humans and AI are adapting and learning to kind of live together in kind of an and strategy, driving more context and intent that could help us change direction in a moment, right? It could change how we invest in human capital, regular capital, how we plan and forecast and think ahead. So if you think of retail environments that ramp up so much for a holiday push at the end of the year, calendar year, now we can actually not ramp up so much, but we can really delegate a lot of that ramp up to a smoother curve if we're just leveraging a little bit more of market conditions, marketing plans, the acceleration of how people are spending their money, whether it's discretionary or for basics and needs. I think all of those things in AI 2.0 will help us kind of instantly make decisions and then recalibrate as we need to deliver kind of that best output or idea in real time versus let's take that back to the farm. We'll churn it out and then we'll come back to you in a week or in a day or in an hour. This is going to happen simultaneously. So a lot more contextual decision making based on data and outside influences that we wouldn't have had access to in the past.
Brilliantly, John. So AIX.O as an experience first AI is, such an important mindset, shift actually that's happening in the market. So next one, how should leaders be reframing their AI conversations right now?
This is a great question. I think even just framing in general is an important part of just business. And as you know, running a company, really getting to the core of how companies really think about technology, capability, process, all those things that go into a successful or not so successful AI engagement. I would say that kind of framing a perspective on AI is one of the most critical identities companies can take. And oftentimes when we work with companies that are on the front end of that journey, we have to help them define and kind of agree on what AI means to them. Is it pure AI? Is it automation? Is it somewhere in the middle? And usually it's somewhere in the middle. And every company is different. And I think, a specific use case around, kind of getting out of the gate but the tendency is to think too narrow around just that, kind of like what we talked about before, quick hits or one-off benefits. AI, in my opinion, is such a lifestyle. It's not a project. It needs to be a living, growing thing. And I think as companies are thinking about investing in the human capital, the process engineering, and the technology, they have to think of it in terms of tuning as they go. And I think that's a big part of it. When all reality, strategic importance and choosing the right tech and without under or overbuying and all those things that we just think about because they're hard numbers are really part and parcel with that process. But more importantly, are they asking questions like, how is this going to transform our company? How is this going to transform our customer experience? And as long as we're balancing the hows with the whys and the knowns and the somewhat unknowns, but directionally in the right place, I think we'll be in a good spot. And I think that's how leaders should be thinking about it from their own lens, from a tops-down perspective, and how their team can write themselves into that story.
Absolutely, John. So reimagination over replacement. So that's a theme I hope everyone takes away today.
Yeah, it's a great way of saying it.
Okay, so next one. Is AI changing how we define intelligence and decision making in business?
This is a big one. I like this. Yes, Yes, exclamation point, right? I think intelligence is no longer just human centric. I think we've grown up thinking we are the top of the food chain for the most part. And I think, and that's true, but it's not just human centric. It's more than that with the addition of AI. It's not one or the other. I think it's, again, an and strategy. And intelligence is now kind of more data-driven, pattern recognizing, constantly learning capabilities that drive contextual awareness that'll help give us predictive power, kind of like my forecasting retail kind of anecdote that I told in an earlier question answer. But that predictive power it can be very powerful, and then self-improving algorithms. So how does, the self-realization that it's heading down the wrong path steers back and gets you into that new movement, or back into, call it service bumpers or service experience bumpers, will be how that evolves, and it's more in the decision-making line versus just the pure intelligence. And, decision-making is definitely moving from delegation to augmentation, if you will.
Right.
And what I mean about that is that we're now kind of layering in human and AI elements in real time to produce more of that AI-assisted foresight. And a little bit of what I was talking to before, I mean, if you think military and the heads-up displays that they have with maybe a prompt around best action to take based on all these different inputs, and can give you create a percentage of confidence around your current strategy for success or failure, would be is really an interesting way that they're using VR, that they're using AI, and a lot of standard battle tactics or just general business tactics in an area like that. But to wrap this up, both intelligence and decision making can really be positively impacted and managed, because the AI revolution is really driving not only the right answers more often, but the better questions is probably a better way to think about it that we should ask.
I mean, very great examples, actually. So hybrid intelligence is so powerful. So thank you, John, for highlighting how it is not either or not, but both together, basically.
Right.
So moving on, what is the role of philosophy in AI strategy, and basically from your experience?
Yeah, this is one of those, who am I? What's their state of being kind of a thing. And I go back to my college courses in philosophy and think about how all that was very timely, and it comes back around, right? And I think, is it a question around what's right or versus what's doable? Right. And if I think of those two terms and kind of defining the impact of that, who's impacted in a positive or negative way, and is there a wrong scenario here? Right. Are we enabling or are we preventing bias by enabling an AI capability or an AI process? And I think for leaders, back to your reframing question that we did a little bit ago, I think applying some level of an ethical watch point to every AI project or discussion really should help us better ask questions around why we're doing something versus whether it's feasible and how much does it cost. So if you think about HR recruiting, here's a great example, one that we all hear and see maybe on LinkedIn and within our networks today. Should the algorithm that, recruiters are using to scan and front end those initial conversations, should we hire based only on productivity results? Or is there more of that balance of, hey, I need a leader that can be a really strong people manager, and they might not be, the highest numbers from a productivity standpoint. I really need both. And oftentimes the algorithm is, either thumbs up or thumbs down, not anywhere in the middle. So I think those are things that will help drive a little more of that ethical watch point in every action or every process that's outward and inward facing for an organization.
I agree. Totally agree. I mean, that's such a important reminder, John. So philosophy must lead technology, not follow it.
Exactly. That's a great way of saying it. It shouldn't be the tail wagging the dog there, for sure.
So next one, are organizations culturally ready for the speed at which AI is evolving?
Speed is always an interesting topic. I would say most aren't. Tech is faster, will always be faster, or, AI is going to evolve faster than organizations, big organizations can move. And I mean, they may be adopting the technology, but, you're often leaving behind, and you could go into a change management 10 questions in 10 minutes really quickly around that too, but they're often kind of unprepared for the human and the organizational and the ethical shifts that come with it. Tech is fast, but the people and the process and policies are always slow. And back to my point about AI being a lifestyle, that requires cultural change in a way that traditional kind of command and control that we've set up businesses and hierarchies and structures, are really that have been built into organizations for run the business, they need to change, right? It might be a humility thing as well. I mean, I think as humans, we think we know more than anything else or anyone else tend to. I think that level of humility is bringing in outside influences, and customers or companies that really foster only this top-down directive are going to have a hard time with AI, rather than kind of allowing and really embracing outside-in perspective. I'm sure you deal with that quite often within Pronix, and when you engage with clients, you have to really gauge: are they ready to adapt, or is there a lot of change management that's going to go on? So, short answer is no. They're not culturally ready typically. I think preparing and making sure that they've got a good definition and they're framing it the right way for the company will get them there faster. So a lot of the topics that we've already covered will help get companies farther down the line and make better successful engagements in those that evolve those mindsets as fast as they adopt tools and tech.
John, so you actually nailed it. So mindsets have to keep pace with the tools. So thanks for framing that very clearly. So what is one overlooked opportunity with AI today?
Great question. For us that are logical left side brain folks, I think the right side tends to be overlooked a little bit. I think, again, I'm kind of a closet musician, so I get a little bit of both, but I think where creativity meets productivity, and sometimes those are separate and mutually exclusive, but I think if I look at the opportunity, bring creativity to productivity is getting better, still has a long way to go. It's kind of more of that and strategy, right? If you do it together, it's probably going to come out with a different set of results or next steps for anyone that kind of embraces that. And if you think about a good example of that might be a corporate chef for a food production company who creates this, culinary masterpiece at an individual meal level. AI could do something like measure the volumes and weights, convert to scale for like factory production, send a sourcing optimization list to see where you could source those products for the best quality and the best cost, and then send the market analysis to leadership for approval without a meeting that has to be scheduled to talk about even one of those topics. So if you think about it, that creativity meets productivity, and if you've got a backlog or a list of things that you could launch with, and that's constantly being vetted out and teed up, but not sourced, so you're not spending all that money and you might not ever produce that culinary masterpiece. I think that's a great example of where creativity meets productivity. In this case, it will add market share. The only other thing I'd say about that from a musician standpoint or an artist standpoint is using AI to create portions of songs, or even to get ideas about lyrics or musical ideas. And, typically bands get in a room to vet out an idea for a song, which can accelerate and kind of get you to a better spot. But it helps to kind of give you ideas and where you can go without making it sound weird. And then the next step of that is like your album art or your project art, right, is the next extension. AI could ingest all of those lyrics for the whole project and give you visuals of what that might look like for topics for album art to go and sell and market. So, couple of off-track kind of examples there, but I thought those might be some good ones to share with everyone. I think that creativity meets productivity is the answer that you're looking for there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fresh perspective, John. I know you guys work a lot in hospitality industry, and you pulled out some of the examples that you actually, where, AI could amplify. So basically, AI is act as an amplifier of human strengths and not a, substitute, basically. So that's what.
Right. It enhances. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it.
So the next question, so how can enterprises avoid shallow AI adoptions?
Yeah, this is the state of the world we live in right now. I would say my immediate reaction to that is don't buy tech until you know where it would best enhance the experience and create efficiencies, where it just isn't a one and done scenario. Mm-hmm. So again, this gets back to framing. It gets back to the why. What are the impacts with the organization, and how do we start that journey and then care and feed and tune along the way? I would personally, and we've seen much more success with the second or the third highest priority use case as a first example of how companies should jump into it. Usually the biggest use case has the highest angst around it. There's a lot of stakeholders, and so it tends to be a little bit harder to pull those top use cases over the line. Plus, it allows everyone to kind of get seated around the platform. And as you've developed many platforms for many customers, you see that level of engagement go up as they get more flexible or get more used to the platform and some of the nuances and how to manage it. And then they can add along from there. But that's where I don't think buying tech just because it's the upper right on the Gartner Magic Quadrant is always the best for everyone. That tends to be a bad approach at that. And I think that's one of the big avoid this and make sure you get your ducks in a row before you go into it.
Fantastic advice, John. So proof of purpose is exactly the shift leaders need to hear.
Yeah.
So finally, what's your advice to leaders who are thinking AI today?
Yeah, I go back to start with what your company's definition of AI is, right? Then make sure you have general alignment around what those critical items within the company's strategy are represented. So again, hard understanding of what your definition is. Make sure you have a good idea of starting where your company wants to go from an experience and from a process and a technology perspective. And even if those are unknowns, having those in mind, talking about the ethical conversation of maybe asking why, and should this impact or in a negative or a positive way, the way it's going to, and be well understood and detailed so that AI can enhance each of those critical areas for a better balance, right? Does the leader know what the long-term goals of the company are, what the customer engagement and experience aspirations are, or are there large strategic gaps in the plan that need to be addressed? Just eliminating those because they may not be defined or we want to get out of the gate pretty quickly is a recipe for a little bit of a challenging project or engagement. But it is great pre-work, right? So if you're listening to this, think about some of the things that we've talked about in this list and really at least have your self ready to go if you haven't jumped in yet. But make sure that story and message are really, and the purpose is really clear. And then it's socialized across your company. I wouldn't assume that that's well understood. I think everyone can get in a room and say, hey, are we all trying to grow the company and have the best experience ever? You'll get everybody raising their hand. But what gets in the way of that, right? Resources, time, energy, level of effort, all those things that they would use good partners like Pronix, yourself, like Infinite Green, and keep looking forward. Think of AI as your long-term roadmap, but bite-sized pieces along the way, and not just seeking out faster or more answers, but get those better questions that you can ask to get you to that better result in the long run.
John, I mean, that's a powerful closing thought. So thank you for challenging us to think about the future we are shaping and our readiness to, lead on it, basically. So John, it's been pleasure having you on the AI Rapid Fire series. And your insights are exactly what we need to expand, how we think about AI and from tactical to, philosophical. And thank you everyone, listening. So this episode was brought to you by Pronix Inc., where we partner with enterprises such as Infinite Green, as well as the, clients to transform customer and employee experiences through AI-powered solutions and digital innovation. So hope you enjoyed the conversation and got great insights from one of the reputable tech leader and a business leader in the market. So reach out to Infinite Green if you require any CX consulting, especially in the automation space. So we've been collaborated very closely and implementing AI at rapid scale for larger enterprises and in number of use cases that John talked about. So if you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow us for more episodes and as we explore the future of AI and one question at a time. So until next time, keep thinking bigger.
Thanks, Kishore. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, John. See you next time.